Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Polite as Fuck. Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody's doing all right. You know, the usual start that I have. I say the same thing every time,
well, that's
I think.
what we said. We wanted a script.
I know. Well, that's my script every time. For those, hopefully we have new people because you guys are sharing with your friends. I'm Ellie.
And I'm Erica.
Yeah. We have a...
And we're both 28 years old now.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's too much. We're talking about social anxiety today.
Yes.
Which I have.
Confirmed.
Can confirm I have social anxiety. I do think, so when I was a kid, like growing up, I had like pretty bad depression, I would say. And I think moving into my adult, like later 20s, like probably 24 up until now, I don't really feel like depressed as much as I feel my anxiety. And I mean, I think social anxiety, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different types. Like I can feel it certain ways, certain things trigger, but I think social anxiety now and after COVID has just really taken off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's like something a lot of people are feeling. I think even just like talking to people at the restaurant about things, and like COVID fucked us up.
It did.
And I think when I think of social anxiety, I think more and more people feel that because of the isolation that COVID brought. So I think this is just going to be an overall good episode.
Yeah.
To talk about since COVID.
I agree. That's true. I didn't even think about like pre and post COVID.
Yeah.
How I was feeling in social situations, but it's true. It's definitely heightened.
Everything.
Yeah. In the last few years, because I consider myself like a pretty confident person.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't get anxious or I don't like overthink things, and like talking to people for the first time or like making conversation. Like I literally there's a little squeak. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, I literally traveled by myself for a year.
Yeah.
And was in a bunch of different new social settings. And yeah, it was like, I would get anxious about it, but it was very different. It was more of like a nervous, like, you know, not like anxiety, overthinking, sweating, dread.
Yeah, like debilitating.
Yeah.
Because that's how it gets for me, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I do think, yeah, exactly. Growing up, I was unapologetic in every situation, which I think has evolved to make me a little bit more mature because I feel like I have a little bit more, I'm more aware of my surroundings. But I do find myself like apologizing and thinking more than I've ever thought about things ever. And I just remember, and I was recently talking to one of my sisters about this, and I was like, I wish I could, where did the I don't give a fuck attitude go?
Yeah.
Because I used to have that. I used to be like, I literally don't give a fuck. I don't think twice. I'm sure I did have some situations where I was like, oh my gosh, meeting new people. Like, but again, it's that like nervousness, adrenaline rush almost, whereas now it's kind of flipped and it's more like, I don't want to do it. Like I won't like put myself
no to plans,
yes, because exactly. And I hate that.
What does it appear like? Like when you think of social anxiety, what are your symptoms?
What are my symptoms? I think when it comes to like overall social anxiety, like friends, groups, going out, I think it even starts like at the root of the day or the trip or whatever, of like knowing what the plan is, and that I might even be in a uncomfortable situation has already got me feeling like I don't know if I want to be doing this, like already kind of feeling anxiety. And then I get in my head, like I start to spiral and think about all sorts of things.
Situation?
Yeah, very much like what ifs. I think, I'm trying to think like specifically maybe like what my body does. I mean, I feel like it's like pretty typical. I got the sweats. No.
Well, because when I was reading about like symptoms, like physical symptoms, it's like nausea, sweating, like And I personally don't feel like I get those. So I was curious if, like, physically that's, you experience those type of things. But I feel like I'm similar to you in the sense of, like, psychologically, there's more things going on in my mind.
Yeah. I think, too, when I was in therapy, I would always say, like, when I get anxious or this feeling, like I feel a lot of things like in my gut and in my heart, like this part of my body, like I feel so much. And so when I'm feeling like really good, this is like so weird. I don't know like how to say this, but I'm just going to say like when I'm feeling, when it's like good kind of anxiety or like adrenaline, I feel like the energy a little bit higher up, like almost closer to like my throat and my heart. When I feel like like I can't speak, I can't move, I don't even know what my own name is, it's like way lower in my gut. And so I think I just associate certain social situations based on like where it is I can feel whatever is going on in there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones it lists are like blushing easily, sweating excessively, trembling or shaking, feeling nauseous, heart palpitations. Those are physical that it said. And psychological, this is all from thiswayup.org.
.org, so you know it's...
So you know it's legit.
Yeah.
Psychological symptoms, low self-esteem, negative and self-critical thoughts, worrying about social situations in advance, which you just talked about, ruminating about social situations afterwards, assuming that other people are harsh and judgmental.
All of those.
And then the behavioral ones, avoiding social situations, even if this means missing out on something important.
Yep.
Using drugs or alcohol to cope with social situations.
Yep.
Wearing dark clothes to hide sweating.
Yep.
Only going into social situations if you have a friend with you. Planning what you'll do or say in social situations far in advance. This is not an exhaustive list, obviously, but I just felt like a lot of those I was like...
Oh, yeah, can relate. Relate.
Maybe, like, the physical ones, I don't know. But the other ones, I can see, for sure.
Yeah. I know we weren't, like, gonna say, like, this is kind of the next topic. But the last one that you said for behavioral is, like, planning what you're gonna say. That is me in social situations when it comes to dating. Like, I rehearse. Like, I feel like I need to know everything that I can say, which I think is a good thing. But when I am doing that while I'm also being very self-critical about myself, like those two do not need to be paired together when it comes to like dating. But yeah, all of those, both like physical and behavioral, I think is what you said, or the for whatever the last two categories were, I definitely relate to all of those. It's just so quick to spiral, and it's so difficult.
Do you assume, like, when it's a setting where you know the people, are you assuming, even though you know them, that they're still judging you?
I wouldn't say overall. I think it's a little bit easier when I'm with people, but I mean, we all have those moments where we're in a social situation and you say something and you're like, why the fuck did I just say that? I think when I feel that way, when I am with people I'm comfortable with, that's when I'm like, oh, they're not judging me, but I am automatically assuming what it is they feel. Or like putting emotions, like I'm like, oh, they now are really upset at me because I said this thing or whatever. Like, and I'll say it in my mind like a statement where it's like not a maybe, not like a, I wonder if this like upset them. It's like, no, now they're mad. And I'll say that to myself. And those like, when you say those kind of things, that just like only enhances the
feelings you already have.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting because for me, I feel like I don't get super anxious going into the setting, probably because I usually have a friend, or at least I am going somewhere where I at least know someone there, which makes it better. But I think once I'm in the social setting, like, I avoid talking. Like, even if I have something to, like, add to a conversation or, like, a story or an anecdote that's, like, about me, I avoid sharing it because I don't want to be, like, annoying or seem self-centered or, like, I don't necessarily think people's judgments of me are going to be harsh as much as they're just, like, okay, like...
Interesting.
There she goes.
Yeah.
Talking about herself. But I feel like that's literally what you do. That's how you have a conversation, is you talk about yourself, so then someone can say, oh yeah, I relate, and then talk about themselves.
Yeah.
But I guess in my mind, I'm just like, it is really hard for me to speak up, or I'll just like, I don't know.
I know. It's hard. But for me, I feel like I ramble. So I'm like, okay, because I know, like, okay, this is how you act in a social situation. You need to, like, speak up. You need to say something.
Yeah.
And then instead of, and I find myself doing this, as you guys know, on the podcast 100% of the time, is in my mind, I have let's say I have, like, 2 sentences to get my point across. That's what's in my mind. I start speaking and it's like, goes on and on and on. And even in my mind, it's like, Ellie, shut up. Ellie, shut up. Ellie, shut up. And it's just like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and then I end whatever it is I'm saying. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why did I just say all that?
Yeah. Yeah, the overthinking of what you're saying, I get that fully.
Do you, like, I don't know your cues when we're in, like, a social situation, unless you're, like, extremely anxious or uncomfortable. I feel like I can tell, but most of the time I would only say if it's, like, with people we don't know or out, or, like, it's more of, like, a safety thing, or, like, a guy that's being annoying. But, like, I know you feel that way, especially since we have, like, an hour-long debrief when we come back home. But, like, in the moment, I would have no idea.
Really?
I don't know your, like, cues or whatever.
I don't know that I present them. I feel like I'm, like, smiling and, like, engaging and, like, laughing when I'm supposed to laugh or not, because I'm just laughing all the time. But this was happening. We had a dinner last night, a few friends. We had been planning this dinner for, like, weeks, and we kept pushing it out because it's supposed to be, like, our mini reunion from when we went to Budapest together, and we were going to make this dinner that we had there. Anyway, we're, like, talking about, like, and this is the other thing, too. I think because I had a very different, like, college, high school experience, I feel like, than a lot of people in terms of, like, partying and, like, crazy stories. Like, I don't have those. So I don't want to be like, actually, I went and did Habitat for Humanity during my spring break. Like,
So cute.
Like that, I'm annoyed with myself. I sound annoying. I feel annoying. And they're all talking about it. And I'm just, like, laughing along.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to speak up. I'm not going to talk about any of my experience, because that's, like, a total vibe shift.
Yeah.
Or, like, when people talk about movies, like, I have nothing to say. Unless it's, like, the 5 movies that aren't Disney movies that I've seen. That's an exaggeration. But, like, a lot of things I just feel like I can't contribute to the extent that other people can, so why do I need to say anything?
Yeah. See, I wish I had that filter, because sometimes I'm like, I'm so desperate to be involved that I will pull from the depths, the depths of information of my life just to input some sort of something, and then I feel the vibe shift or whatever, and I'm like, fuck, but I can't stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't stop, won't stop. Help me. Well, okay, so I know I just, like, briefly touched on it, but how are you, like, what's the difference between your social anxiety when it comes to, like, being with friends or meeting new people versus, like, dating and meeting someone new in that aspect of life? Do your symptoms present the same?
I feel like yes, in a way. Because I feel like I, like, get excited. I'm like, I'm going on a date. Like, this will be fun.
Yeah.
Like, in the process of doing it, and then as I'm driving there, or, like, when I get there, I think I put a wall up, and I was describing it to Lauren earlier. That's the girl who's my dating coach.
Which we love.
I feel like I turn into, like, how I am at work, and I'm like a friendly coworker. I'm respectful and nice. But I don't want to say, okay.
I want to know.
I have a lot of thoughts, and maybe this is going to make me look bad. And I'm getting anxiety, and my palms are sweating. But, like, I feel like a mature guy, in my experience, it usually takes a second for us to find, like, immature, fun banter. Mm-hmm. So it's easier for me to talk to someone who's like 24 because they're immature, and it's literally like so surface level and just like funny that I don't feel like I'm like so formal, you know?
Yeah.
But then I'm talking to someone who's like 32 and they have their shit together, but then I feel like I can't be the like immature, silly person because this is a put together human.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Very much so. That's so interesting.
It's like I know that that's nothing's gonna happen with this kid.
But really. Interesting.
But it's more fun for me.
Yeah, and it's an easier first date.
It's easy, yeah, fully.
Because of the conversation and the way that it goes. It's much harder for second, maybe third date with someone like that because it does take a second to get the groove and kind of like take those walls and barriers down.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Because I feel like I'm worried about them thinking that I'm now immature or that I don't have my shit together.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like put on a front, and then I just feel like I spiral and I'm like, I'm so boring. Like I don't even have anything interesting to talk about. My job is boring.
Out of all the things I would describe you as, I would never describe you as boring. And I don't think anybody...
That's what goes through my head.
I know.
On dates, I think.
Yeah.
Because I feel confident. I feel good. And then I get there and then I'm like, whoa, they have their shit together. And I think that's like what guys do. They're
probably doing the same exact thing. They're like, oh, I need to come at it with like, look at my house, look at my job, look at this, look at this, because they're like, I'm not a kid.
Yeah.
Let me show you that I'm not a kid. It just takes a second, but it is, that friction is so hard to navigate through the first like few times that you guys meet up.
Yeah. This is the other thing that I learned literally today. Well, I didn't learn it, but Lauren was encouraging. She was like, unless it's like a red flag, or you're like, I absolutely have nothing in common with this like there's nothing there. Mm-hmm. She's like, you should always defer to doing a second date. Which I think, to your point, is like, you're not gonna know that someone is your like life partner talking to them for 1 hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think about like all my friendships, and it's like literally the group of people, the relationships, the platonic relationships that I've had, it's taken years to get to where they are now. And so many times hanging out and so much conversation and like activities and things. It's like, why am I getting so worked up or like being immediately like, that didn't work after one time?
Yeah. It's just so hard. It's hard to like constantly put yourself in those uncomfortable positions.
I know.
But you have to in order to get to know someone.
What does yours present as?
Very similar, but I would say mine is more like what you were saying for your like just overall social anxiety. Like I find myself I am a huge talker, and I talk, obviously that's what I just said about, okay, I don't need to repeat everything that I just said. But like on a date or when I'm getting to know someone, I just like kind of take a step back and I let them lead and I only answer, I don't know, I just don't really like say as much as I do. And I think it's very similar like reasoning behind it of like, I'm afraid to show them this craziness right away because I don't want it to seem like I am, don't have my shit together. But I also think the way that my mind works and spiraling in a big way that my anxiety presents itself is being so self-critical and like how I'm not good enough, I'm not professional, I'm not like all of the things that I could possibly say about myself like bad is what goes through my mind. So that's already in my mind.
Like
so instead
before you get there,
before
time.
Yeah, and that's like for everything too. I think any social situation, but when it comes to dating, like I wish I could come at it and be a little bit more confident in myself and be like, this is why, this is me. I am this. I am cute. I am da 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 da. But I don't have those like I am statements in my mind. So like I'm like, oh yeah, like I kind of like meh meh meh, and it's just like so passive. Mm-hmm. But then when you get to know me, I am not a passive person. I'm pretty aggressive. You know what I mean? Like I
passionate.
Passionate. Yeah, exactly. So I don't like that about myself because I feel like I'm almost giving them a bit of, like, I'm not giving them me.
You're also assuming that they're assuming the worst about you.
Yeah.
That they're assuming those negative thoughts that you're having about yourself.
Exactly.
And you are projecting that onto them.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's easy to look at when you're not in the actual setting of like, this is what I'm doing. I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But it's hard when you're in that setting. I have some thoughts of like things that I read and have talked about, but we can keep going. Do you have any other stories or like examples, not solutions to social anxiety?
Just like, oh my gosh, like when I laugh at like I love my laugh and I like being funny and silly, but I don't normally giggle like that all the time. So like when I'm on my first date, I'm constantly like hee 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 hee, and like I am like a fun laughing person in social situations, but most of the time I'm saying like some dumb out of pocket comment or something like that, or a good out of pocket, not crazy, but like I'm not like the giggly kind of girl. And like it feels almost like a facade of like, okay, some people are into that giggliness, and then they get to know me and they're like, oh, you're not really like a giggly kind of person. Giggly girl. But I think like that's pretty like common that I've seen when I go like meet someone, because I take that passive role and don't really talk about myself and make those I am statements and like have that confidence. I'm more just like, they'll say something and I'll just be like, what? Ellie, stop. Never done that before. That noise is not allowed to come out of you.
That's funny. You made me think of, I feel like I overcompensate by trying to be funny, like witty.
Yeah.
Which I was having the other night in our book club. It was like I made a joke and it got a laugh, and then I kept going, and then it wasn't funny anymore. And I was like,
I want to know.
It wasn't even like a joke. Our friend had like crunched her food right in my ear, and I was like, what the heck? Like, why did you do that? And she was like, I don't even know. Like, she was just like, I'm just trying to be close to you. And I was like, that was so startling, blah, blah, blah. We laughed. And then I was like, that was like a cow chewing its food in my ear. And then I was like, did I just call her a cow? Like, why did I have to keep it going? Like, it's just like one of those stupid things. It's like, oh my gosh, haha, you just chewed in my ear. Instead, I'm like, you're like a cow. And and then by her face, and this is me assuming, she's like, what?
Huh? That is so funny. That same friend, we were out like, I can't remember when this conversation happened, but we were talking, it was the three of us. And I was like, I really hate social situations sometimes because I will try and like make a joke and like be funny and witty and say a comment. No one laughs. I literally am just myself existing, and I say something that's like full serious, and literally everybody's like, bah! And I'm like, why does that happen? And when we were at the book club, she's like, I always think about you saying that. And like something had happened later that day where I was like just being me, and like a bunch of people laughed, and I'm like, I looked at her and I was like, see,
I wasn't even trying to be funny.
But when I am trying, everybody's like,
yeah,
like, fuck.
Yeah, I know. The comedy piece is hard because sometimes what you think in your head is funny is just...
the delivery sometimes should be
just
like...
doesn't land, and you're like, okay, just...
And that really ramps up the social anxiety. Oh.
Yeah, the vibe shift is real when those things happen, especially when it's a larger group and everyone heard you, and then everyone's like, okay, so what did you do last weekend?
The thing is like, you just have to recognize, that's like a spiral too, but like just everybody, it's everybody, and I have to constantly remind myself.
Should we switch to the positive?
Let's do it.
Okay. Oh, before we dive into solutions or like how we deal with it, I thought this was interesting in this same article about what causes social anxiety.
Oh.
Because we talked a little bit about COVID, but like there's other things that it mentions in here, and it alludes to like early life experiences, like if you were bullied, or if you had like an overly critical parent, or if you felt like you're excluded from social groups. which is like, I feel like I've experienced bits of that. And then personality factors, like being really introverted, but also being like a perfectionist or really self-critical, or like, I don't know, I feel like being an oldest sibling, a lot of those traits, like, that can be good or can be like, you're a leader, you're organized, can also present themselves as like anxious.
Yeah.
And then just like life stressors, like starting a new job, or having a baby, or developing an illness, or missing out on like opportunities or experiences because of a traumatic event, and all of these things that, like, I feel like my social anxiety has been worse in different phases of my life than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Like with COVID, I think it was way worse.
Yeah.
Especially because I didn't know anyone, or like, yeah, we don't need to talk about all of it, but I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think about this a lot of like the way I grew up, and I think it was a very unique experience, the way that I had like my childhood, and I'm very grateful for it for a lot of different reasons. But I do think that the constant moving around, I see the way it plays out in my adult life. For one, I can never settle. I am constantly on the move. I'm constantly moving. I feel like that's my answer to everything, of like when things get really uncomfortable or really difficult, my automatic thought in my mind is I need to leave. Like I have to just, I can't leave the situation. No, I have to leave the state. Like I can't be here. And I think when it comes to social anxiety is I never really put myself in the middle of groups or learning or really putting myself out there too much, because what was the point? I'm going to be leaving soon anyway. And a lot of the time, like I had swimming, which was like, has been part of my life for so long, but swimming isn't a very talkative sport. So
it's a lot in your head.
Yeah, it's a lot in your head. And I'm with a team experiencing this, but we're not really like talking all the time. And I think when I like first started to like be aware of myself, I guess, or just like the way I exist in groups and friends and like cliques and things like that, is when I moved to Nevada. And I think that was the first time that I really tried to put myself in groups and meet people, and I wanted the boyfriends and I wanted the group of friends. And I think it's really special because even now I don't really have any other like childhood friends like past like previous than Nevada. Everybody that I have, even now I just say, just to like, it's easier to say like, oh yeah, I grew up like Lake Tahoe area, just because that's where I remember those things. But yeah, it's really interesting how like that life and that childhood is like playing out now in my adult life, especially when it comes to anxiety.
Yeah. Which is why therapy is important.
Yeah.
And working through those things, because I know that they presented themselves a lot stronger before I really like worked through why. Because it's hard to like associate and be like, why? I'm so anxious now. And you're not thinking like, oh, maybe when I was a kid and someone kept saying I have buck teeth and like making fun of me, that's why.
Yeah.
Like underlying, I'm anxious.
Yeah.
You don't think about that stuff.
No.
But some things that this article lists and that I also feel like have helped me is I feel like I do so much better in social settings if I have done some type of exercise that day.
Oh, like I thought you meant like an exercise as in like a journal prompt.
No,
like beforehand,
like
a
physically
literal
move my body.
Oh, God.
I was like, did I say it wrong?
No, you didn't. It's just me.
But like, even if it's just like taking a walk, or like, I don't know, having a second by myself, like moving my body, I feel like I come to social settings in a better mental state than if I've like rolled out of bed in the morning, worked all day, gone to the event, and I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. I'm overwhelmed. I'm anxious, and I like bring that energy. Whereas if that morning I like prioritized some type of self-care, even if it's just like going outside for 10 minutes, I feel like I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
In social settings.
I love that. That's very interesting. I think for me, just hearing you say that, one for me is I feel better like entering a social situation with people that I care about, or like, let's say we're going out as a group somewhere. If I do like a pre-chaser to that, if that makes sense, of like, okay, even if I've exercised, okay, how am I wording this? Like if I go do something social-ish before I like go into that situation, even if it's like most of our friends live at the beach, sometimes it's better for me if I go out and like grab a drink or walk up and down the beach. See, even walking, that's not enough. I feel like I need to be in like an enclosed place. For instance, we had a friend over this past weekend, and they were saying that like to go watch one of the basketball games, to go over to their friend's house. And I remember telling Erica, like, that feels like a lot right now. Like, I don't know if I'm like ready for that social situation. We ended up going to go get dinner somewhere and then going in. I did not feel awkward at once. I did not leave that social situation thinking about, Ellie, why did you say that? You're so awkward. That thought did not cross my mind, which is very rare for me. Yeah. And so just like thinking about, okay, what was different this time? Like, I was with close friends. So like, even if I was awkward at dinner or said something dumb shit, like, who cares? Who cares? Yeah. And then I go into this social situation and I'm like, okay, I've already got all of this out. I've already been around people. I'm kind of like in the whatever, like, social situation Ellie that I need to be. And then I enter, like, that feels so much better rather than like just being at home, getting ready, leaving the house and going straight into it. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, this is a lot.
Yeah. And you, like, that's true, because that was more of like a very intimate social setting. It's like someone's house. We didn't know anyone who was there, and we're all like hanging out. And it was nice to have gone somewhere where we don't know anyone. There's no expectation there. We're just like out in public. It's kind of like getting the edge off. Yes. And then you go, and then you're like, okay, I'm relaxed. I've already been out for a second.
Yes. And I think that has like helped. I even think back to like some of the other times of like, even if I go on the way somewhere and I have to stop at the grocery store to get a snack, or like, not that I want it to be like revolved around drinking, because I think that is like a whole other conversation. But like, if I go and I'm like stopping at the liquor store to grab something before the place, like, it just helps me like get into, you know what I mean? Because sometimes like, even if I'm walking or going there, even getting ready, it's fun, I feel great, but I'm still like in my head, I'm very comfortable here. And then I go out into like public and I'm like, whoa, the noise and the people is a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. This one also suggests deep breathing.
Just in the corner.
Which I do think, like, when I'm in traffic, I can get so worked up sitting in my car and then being like, I don't even know, like, either I'm running late or like this, like, when you're in traffic, you have to be so aware of everything going on. Yeah. And like, if I take a second and like take some deep breaths and like bring myself back to my body. Yeah. Not that traffic suddenly is great, but I'm not like suddenly getting a headache and feeling like really sick to my stomach and like overwhelmed by it. That's traffic is a very anxiety-inducing thing for me. Yeah. So I don't know, and like maybe it's like stepping away to the bathroom and just like, let's recenter, let's take a chill pill. This happened the other day when I had a last-minute call with the CEO. I was late to my class that I had to coach, and then I came home, and then I felt like the rest of the day I was just like so anxious, and I couldn't like get myself to just be like, these things have happened. Like, we have to move on. There's nothing we can do about it. Literally everyone's fine. No one cares. Yeah. I'm just like still worked up about it. And then it was like, I went outside and just was like breathing, like aware, like thinking about my breath and thinking about like feeling better. And then I felt better.
Yeah.
So that's an option.
I do think that too. A lot of the times when I feel like a lot of anxiety, especially at work, is if there's like a mistake or there's just like really weird friction of like, yeah, taking a step and going to the bathroom. And most of the time, like, I don't think about it, and maybe I should be a little bit more aware of my breath. But a lot of it is what you're saying is I'm taking a break so that I can just like breathe and like recenter my focus for a second so that I can walk back in, because yeah, I agree. I have a tendency to like not let shit go, and then it like plays, like it stacks on top of, and then I can't just like breathe, really.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Having a panic attack.
Yeah. I've been having revelations lately.
I love that.
Yeah. And I was recently on a walk with a friend because I was just feeling a lot of social anxiety last week around dumb shit. Nothing specific happened. Literally nothing happened. I just all of a sudden was like, I think there's just a lot happening this month. And last weekend was like the start of it all. And I think just, I don't know, this is just me kind of thinking back on maybe why I was feeling that way. But I was just over analyzing everything, every friend that I have, every message I sent, every message I didn't send, what's coming up. Like, I mean, the spiral was really happening. And a lot of that was around like the friends that I have here of like, oh my gosh, where am I at with the friends that I have, whatever. And I was like kind of checking in with myself of, now that I'm not having this crutch of smoking, how can I be a better friend? And I think living with you has taught me a lot about like the way female adult relationships work and how important they are, but how much work can you have to put into them to make them worthy of everybody's time and worth something that's like worth of a friendship. And I thought like, wow, I don't really do that. I don't really make time for people or say anything, just because in the past, because I think the way that I grew up, I never had to. Like it just is not, never been a priority to me, because I don't need that, because I have other things like smoking. And I was kind of feeling frustrated on where I am at with friends. And I'm like, well, Ellie, what have you done to like not deserve them, but like what work have you put in? Like where you're asking for all of this to come to you, but like what have you put forth? Anyway, long story short, I finally reached out to someone that I'm really good friends with and was just like, I haven't really talked to this person. I want to see what's up and see if this like little wackadoodle will help. So wackadoodle, yeah. And I, while we were walking, was just thinking and kind of talking with her about like just the idea of confidence and how it's like a very tangible thing that you can sense and see in people. And I have a tendency, very much how I was saying about the whole, like, the way that I take dating and how I take, like, a little bit more of a passive turn or, like, step back into that whatever space.
Yeah.
I don't know why I do this, but I show up to situations so negative about myself. And I think in the past, it's a very immature mindset, very high school of, like, oh, I suck at this and I suck at this. And it's almost like because... You know, like when kids do that, it's because they're reaching for like, oh, no, you don't, or but you're so good at this. Yeah, your attention. So I think I still have that mindset sometimes when I go into social situations. And more and more I'm realizing, and everybody's probably like, yeah, duh, bitch. But like, I am like, that is so tangible. And like people sense that even if I'm not saying anything, even if it's just all in my mind and I'm showing up and my shoulders are hunched and I'm like, not talking or not saying anything or not doing it, like it's tangible. And no one, as adult people, aren't going to come up and you can say like, hey, are you good? But no one's going to constantly come up, are you okay? Let's talk about it. What's wrong? Give you that attention, because it's, no one wants that energy in you. Rather, like when I am just faking it, literally faking, and I'm just like, let me just sit up straight and show up and laugh and have a good time, like even if it's just to experiment with things, the difference in that social situation is like insane. Like 0 to 100, if that's even, I don't even know if that's the right scale here. But like, I just, and again, it's probably like a revelation that people have had since high school, but I think it's a good reminder of like, even if you're not feeling it, not that you have to show up to every situation feeling confident. I think that's the best thing about friends is like, they're there for you when you
yourself.
need them. Yeah. And if you're having a hard time. But when I show up having a hard time every single time, I now get labeled as that friend, or maybe I think I get labeled as that friend that's always like having something wrong or like not confident, and like no one wants that. That was a negative way to say it, but do you see what I'm trying to say?
No, I don't think it was negative, and I think all the things you just mentioned are really good. Like, a few of the things I took away from it is, like, to have better social settings, you also have to put forth some effort.
Yes.
Into that relationship with people, and it's not just like, oh, I'm going to show up and everyone's going to coddle me and make me feel like the center of attention and just, like, lift me up, you know? Like, you also have to show up and build, like, especially with a group. Like, building out or trying to have dedicated individual time with people is really important, because then when you are in that group setting, it's like they know things about you. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they just know what you've presented in a group setting, which usually isn't the most, like, vulnerable side of you.
Right.
And then also, like, faking it till you make it. I think that's, like, the thing we've talked about a little bit in, like, dating, too. It's a good reminder all the time of, like, it doesn't necessarily mean, like, pretending that nothing's wrong or pretending, like, everything's okay and then no one will, like, actually know if you're really struggling with something. But also, like the examples I gave earlier about, like, oh, I was late for my class and I, like, was anxious about it. Just, like, pretending that everything's fine, I had a good day. And then eventually that feeling goes away because you've faked it, you're hanging out with friends, you're having a good time, and now it's like you're not even thinking about it anymore. But when you bring that into the setting, then that's all you continue to think about, and then your whole experience, even if you're not talking about it, is like revolved around that negative energy.
Yeah.
Just repeating what you just said, but I agree with everything you said.
Yeah. Crazy. Love it. Yeah, it's like sometimes I almost like, I don't know why. Again, I think it's because of the immaturity piece or what I think people are looking for. But I almost, even if everything's okay in my life, I'll show up to the situation and be like, actually, yeah, I'm like, like I'll find things to be negative
like,
about.
And
I'm like, why do I do that? Why can't I just show up and be like, yeah, life's great. Yeah. Actually, thanks for asking.
Yeah. Or just like, you know, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
The last one that I thought was really good, that I have been trying to do these even without this list that I had before, but making a list of your 3 best features, which you said earlier, you only think about the negative things of yourself. And it says, perhaps with the help of a friend or relative, carry the list with you and read it to yourself whenever you find yourself focusing on negative thoughts, which I put on my mirror. I have 3 affirmations that I have on my mirror that, like, I'm not saying them all the time, but I think before I go out into a social setting, I'm, like, looking at them. So that's what my mind is thinking about before I leave the house, instead of, like, whatever negative shit I'd tell myself in the mirror.
I love that. Can we know what they are?
I am confident in my feminine energy, because I'm trying to be in my feminine energy.
I love that.
I prioritize my self-care and continue to pursue my passions, even when in a relationship. Because I want to, like, I think that I can be the best version of myself when I do those things. And so if I'm going on a date, like, that's something I'm thinking of, like, can I still do these things with this person, or am I going to need to be taking care of you? And then what is the other one? I don't know.
Those are 2 really good ones, though.
Thanks.
We'll work on that third one.
I don't know. But then I also have a list. There's the affirmations, and then I have a list that I wrote down of all the things that I like about myself, which was a really good exercise and also very difficult. Yeah. It's surprising when you start and you're like, you, like, go to write it and then your mind is like, no. Or, like, like, do I really like it? It's like, oh, I like this sometimes, but I'm not this way all the time, so I'm not going to write it down. And just being like, I could just write it down. Because you have that in you, doesn't necessarily mean that that's how you are all the time, and no one is the same way all the time.
I really like that.
Thanks. I can show you my list if you want after this. The other one was to make a list of 3, I really like this, 3 difficult things that you coped with better than you expected yourself to. Read this list when you find yourself worrying about how you'd cope if these worries came true. which I like because it's like a lot of times you think about like, if this happens, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, and then it's going to be really a horrible thing. And then those things 9 times out of 10 don't happen, and you handled it fine. And so it's like reminding yourself that like you got through that before. It was okay. Look at yourself now.
Yeah. I've been trying to do that exercise more in my life when it comes to journaling. I do like writing. I think it's a very therapeutic way for me to just kind of express my feelings and kind of unjumble the jumbliness in my head. Wow. But I even say this a lot in my journals, like, I feel like everything in here is negative. Everything is like all the shit, which is very helpful. Like, no one else is looking at my journal but me, so it doesn't matter. But I also think like it's important for me to remember the things that I did overcome or the good days. Like, I don't want to just, our mind is so like, this is just human nature, is we're more willing to like remember the shit or the fear or the negative and the uncomfortable than we are to remember the like, yay, this is great, as is like like just human nature in general, not even human, just nature. But like, I can do that. I can change something. So when I am journaling, like, even if it's hard or it's like earlier the day, something challenging happened, but then I overcame it at night, it's not keeping me up. So I'm not like writing in my journal to figure it out. Like, I want to start remembering that so that I can write it down. And okay, yeah, we don't need to say it. You guys know what I'm trying to say. Like, I just need to stop. Literally. What thoughts?
I was saying this earlier at the laser away, because he was like, can you do this day? And I was like, actually, I can do that day because blah blah. And then I was like, you don't need to know my schedule. You don't need to know. I can't do that day. Let's find another time. That's all we needed to say.
Just concise statements, Ellie. I literally just said, unreal.
Anyway,
Unreal.
The last one that this thing lists is to keep a daily record. I don't know if you need to, this is maybe too much pressure, but just like keeping a record of the small, nice, or interesting things that happen and discuss these events with your friends when you see them. Because, when someone asks you, like, what'd you do this weekend? And you're like, I don't know. Or, like, it was a good weekend. Like, writing down, like, small little things. And when we had our book club the other night, it was one of the questions was, like, what's, like, a nice interaction, or I don't even know what it was, but, like, something you've witnessed recently in San Diego or since moving to San Diego.
That's
like,
hard.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm like racking my brain, but I know that I've seen so many things. Like, those little things happen all the time. And it's like, am I just like so numb or not paying attention to like daily living or only hyperfixating on like negative interactions, like or someone having road rage or whatever? Hi. The dog's checking in.
And walked away. She's like our mom. She's like, what's going on in here? I love that. I really do need to be more like self-aware on that. I think it's just like I'm selfish. I'm self-centered when it comes to things. And yeah, I'm only looking at the negative, or like I will be so quick to text you or come home and be like, oh, this crazy car incident or this fucking washer shit, or like so quick to talk about all of the negative shit that I see. Like, when is the last time that I just like picked up the phone and was like, I actually just saw this incredible thing. It's like I need to make that more of a priority. And I think just these little things will switch your mindset and even just make life look a little brighter.
Because I feel like when you're thinking about positive things or gratitude or like, just in general, that is how you're retraining your mind. Than the social anxiety. Not that it goes away, but it's a lot easier to combat or to like have things to pull from to stop it from getting worse.
Yeah.
Because you can start to think about like good things.
Yeah.
In your life.
I love that.
That's all I have.
I think it's perfect. I think it's a great way to end things.
All right. Well, we're just two little anxious butterflies. Script.
Where's the script? That was actually really cute. I love that. Because instead of like a social butterfly, I see it. I see where your mind's going.
That's what I was thinking.
It's cute.
Okay. Anyway, if you relate or wanna I don't know, follow along with us. Find us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Polite as Fuck Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you every Wednesday. Have a great rest of your week.
Bye.